Hello and welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally, the show that's fascinated by all the fun and games and finances of the music world, as explained each week by me, Steve Lamack, and him, Stuart Dredge. If you want an easy guide to what's going on in the music biz and how it all works and how the figures stack up, then here we are every week, starting with a big stat. Well, I don't know if it's going to be a big stat. It's a stat from a reasonably big event, but just how big was the Mercury's this year? What's the stat you've got for us, Stuart, from the Mercury's?
I mean, it's a percentage stat, so, it's all relative. But the stat is 74%.
74%, which is, I'm guessing, how much someone's sales have increased since being part of the Mercury Prize night.
This is true. It's the winner himself, Sam Fender. So this is the amount his Spotify streams grew by in the hours after he won the prize,
right,
compared to the week before. So a bunch of people went on, saw him win, and went, right, I'm going to go and stream it, listen to him. For a bit of context, he's got nearly 8.1 million listeners on Spotify. So that's so 74% spike in streams is kind of meaningful.
Yeah.
I was looking at last year's. Do you remember last year when an English teacher won the Mercury Prize?
Yes.
And there was this press release came out saying they saw a chart sales increase of 1,073% in the following week. And then a few lines below said it got to number 40 in the chart.
Yeah.
Which
it was starting from a very low figure, probably, wasn't it? Because, I mean, and obviously so, because the album had been out for a while. So it wasn't as if it was at its peak. So it would have been selling scant copies until the spotlight was shone on it. But 73%, not to be sniffed at. We'll come back to the Mercury Prize and some thoughts on that in the lock-in a bit later for our Patreon subscribers. But we will bring you our big stories first. 3 big stories, as always. We try and sift through all the news from the past week and bring you the 3 stories. You can tell I've got a cold, can't you? Bring you the 3 stories that have been big industry talking points. Certainly this one has. I saw a lot of people firing off emails after this announcement that Spotify is going to make artist-first AI music products, in inverted commas. All 3 major labels and some independents have already signed up to this. The question, obviously, to start with is, what is an artist-first AI music product?
Well, we're going to have to wait a while to find out, because it's very, very purposefully vague, this announcement. But yeah, responsible AI products that empower the artists and songwriters they represent and connect them with the fans who support them.
Right.
So it's very broad brush. We're going to do stuff. We're going to do it with the labels and the artists. And it's all going to be friendly, was basically the gist of this announcement.
Right. And can we read anything into this? I mean, we should make the point. This is not labels signing licensing deals on the topic of AI. It's not an AI licensing deal arrangement. This is something else.
Yeah, it's kind of the pre-licensing deal in a way. It's saying we're going to build stuff. We're not sure yet what. We're going to work with them to do it. And when we do it, we're going to license first. So in a way, it's Spotify sort of saying, this is how we're going to approach doing AI stuff. We're going to do it by the book. And
right.
As much as we sometimes criticize Spotify, and people do, this is exactly what the music industry has been calling for. They want AI companies doing AI stuff to come first and say, partner first, figure out what you're going to do with us, and then license music properly.
Yeah, and pay us appropriately for the rights to use our material.
So I can speculate a bit. I mean, so one interesting line in the announcement was that artists and rights holders will choose if and how to participate. So the implication there is whatever Spotify does end up building, not just labels, but artists can say, I don't want to be part of this, don't want to be music used. So that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So could be a tricky area if a label says we're going to be part of it, and then an artist says, well, I don't want to be, make sure my music's kept out of it.
Yeah.
And in terms of speculation, like that phrase about empowering artists and connecting them with fans, you can read some stuff into that. What this certainly won't be. It's not going to be a service where you or me can hit a button and make an AI track and release it on Spotify. Like, they're not going to do that. Labels would hate that. I would say it's off the table from now. So I think it's more about It might be, for example, it could be about using AI in some way to create your own version of a song by an artist. You know, they could say, right, I'm allow my new single to be remixed using AI into different kind of styles and genres. That's something that people have done before. It could be even outside music. So you know, Spotify sells T-shirts and merch.
Mm.
They could do something where you get to remix a band's artwork or logo into your own T-shirt design using Gen AI.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not the music itself, but that they could do that. So I think what it is that's we're going to do stuff, we're going to experiment, we're going to announce this partnership, then we're going to talk to everyone about our ideas and their ideas, and then when the time comes, we'll license and we'll let people opt out if they want to. So, I mean, I don't know if you saw there's been chatter online. I think artists who don't like Spotify already, who don't trust them, you know, reacted as you would expect. They said, "Well, we don't trust them in this either. How can we believe their promises? This is going to be artist first, and so on." There's been a lot of that chatter.
Mm.
But in an industry level, this is very much this is how labels want every AI company to do it. They want them to come first, figure out a deal, and then, you know, do it properly. So in that sense, it's setting a little bar, I think, for other AI companies to follow, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, well, it will come down to how much money is involved in the licensing deals, won't it? Because I guess, you know, for people who will criticize Spotify, they'll be saying Spotify don't give us enough money for use of our music when it comes to paying royalties. So they will probably say. So I suspect they won't pay us enough money to license our music for their AI assisted music products.
Yeah, and again, the transparency there is going to be important if a label does a deal with Spotify to tell its artists how much and how. I mean, the other thing, it was an interesting line in the announcement saying it's kind of a warning in a way. It said, some voices in the tech industry believe copyright should be abolished. We don't. Musicians' rights matter and copyright is essential, which is all, you know, good stuff. If the music industry doesn't lead in this moment, AI-powered innovation will happen elsewhere without rights, consent, or compensation.
Mm.
So it's kind of Spotify saying this stuff is going to happen, and
Yeah.
if you don't want just the bad guys doing it, we're going to do it with you. So
So does this? I mean, does this put us right back where we were when the music industry was scared of online bootlegging? You know, the big piracy wars. Does it take us back to the days of Napster, where the music industry's flapping around, going, "We've got to do something about this," and Apple came along and said, "Well, we can do this." I mean, and negotiated a very good deal for Apple because there was panic in the music industry. They knew they had to do something. So they sold themselves slightly cheaply, I think, at the time. So are we back there again?
I've heard the word Napster more often in the last 2 weeks than I have in the previous 2 months. So there's that parallel is definitely drawn. I mean, I think it's definitely like there's a really firm sense in the industry of we want to do deals. Like we had a conference last week for Musicalia, and there was a big thing. We want to do deals, and that's two reasons. One is we want to be making stuff ourselves, and like that's beyond the inside of it. And the other is if you're going to sue people for doing bad things, you need to prove that you are also licensing people to do good things.
Mm.
So in a way, the music industry does need to have some partners. So yeah, I think it's a really relevant example, Napster, and I think maybe that's what the music industry has also got in mind. So they'll be thinking back to, well, how was the Apple deal good for us? How did we maybe not so good for us? And we're going to try and avoid that again. So I think maybe it will act as a lesson and hopefully not just a repetition of any of the things people were unhappy with before.
Mm. Okay. From one name from days of yore, from Napster, to another name from the past. Our second story this week. It's the end of an era, as we learn that MTV is shutting down its last remaining music channels. Once seen as, well, an essential part of the music landscape, a network, obviously, that could break bands and make global hits, but the game is up for MTV, which I suppose isn't surprising, given all the alternative channels now open to artists. But I'm sure there'll be one or two people shedding a nostalgic tear this week.
I think it is one of those things, isn't it, where a lot of people are going, I didn't even realize they still had music channels, but feeling sad because when you were young, like when I was a teenager revising for my A levels, MTV was my companion.
Mm.
So but yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought about MTV's music channels for a long, long time. But yeah, MTV Music, MTV 80s, MTV 90s, Club MTV, and MTV Live. They're all ending on 31st December, But, and I know you're going to be worried about this,
Yeah.
what about the MTV channel that shows Geordie Shore and Naked Dating UK?
Is that what MTV does these days? Is that
Well, yeah.
that's it?
Well, do you remember the era when the Osbournes came out and the reality shows and Geordie Shore, sorry, Jersey
Yeah, of
Shore?
course. Yeah. Right.
So there's still a channel that does that, and that's carrying on. So people who want their Naked Dating UK fix don't have to worry. It's just the music videos.
Right.
Go.
I mean,
Um,
it does make you think, though, doesn't it, of all the music-based media and online companies that have been so integral at a certain point in history, and
mm,
then were left behind. MTV. I mean, we've talked recently about the Music Weekly, the Inkies, the
mm.
weekly music papers. MySpace. I mean, I'm sure I'm probably missing some out of this list. But MySpace, like MTV, helped break bands for a while there, and as quickly as it arrived, that was gone.
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? In 5 years' time, will we be talking about TikTok going and
Yeah,
things? Because I think this is the other thing I've seen. And you've probably seen this week as well. Like, there's a lot of talk about is this the nail in the coffin of the long form music video?
mm,
Is there any? And we talked about Lizzo recently, didn't we? Saying no point in doing music videos now, just make TikTok clips. And it's weird because, like, if you say the music video, like the 4 minute, or if you're Guns N' Roses, the 12 minute, if you're Michael Jackson, the 27 minute long form video,
yeah,
like that is. But music video as a generic thing is everywhere. It's on TikTok, it's Instagram. Like the clips of video with music accompanying it is bigger than ever, but it's not happening on TVs now because people are just sitting on their phones scrolling, and
yeah.
that's the change in behavior, really. So that's what MTV's. I guess the challenge for MTV was not just that music videos maybe had evolved into different things, but people watching linear TV has changed. And if you want
Yeah.
to watch the new video from your band you love, you go to YouTube or you go somewhere else. You don't need to wait for
Yeah, I
MTV.
mean, none of this helps, of course, by the fact that there aren't the budgets for music videos. If it's one of those things, it's related, isn't it? If music videos are perceived to not have less impact in terms of a marketing campaign, then let's spend less money on them. And if you spend less money on them, obviously they're not the big firework moments in the video world. And then slowly the whole thing goes into a slight decline. I mean, there are still, obviously, particularly every week you'll see a young band whose mate has made a video for them for probably peanuts, which is really brilliant. But the further you go up the scale, and I'm sure ambitious video makers probably reach a point where the major label gets in touch and says, we would like an amazing video for our new signings. And then when they say, what's the budget? It's still going to be 50p. That's
Yeah,
that's a
so
that's a problem when it comes to music videos at the moment. Just no budget for anyone.
yeah, and that's the thing. They're all like, so you can work with brands like that band OK Go, the band who they've made a habit of getting brands to pay
Oh
loads
yeah,
of money for them to do cool stuff in videos.
yeah,
I was watching Later this week with Jules Holland, and it was Janie Beth was on it.
hmm
Absolutely, I mean, like a performance that makes your hair stand on end, and that is going to be on YouTube, I think, because Later puts a lot of videos on YouTube. And so I don't think she needs a music video for that song. She could have that live performance. And I think there's a whole bunch of companies that exist to kind of film performances and put them online. So if you're a band, I think nowadays, again, why spend money on a video unless you've really got a concept you want to make?
mm,
When you can probably find someone to film you performing it really well, and that's the thing that will spread. So, like, there's alternative ways to, like, music video is a much wider thing now. But yeah, and I mean, with MTV again, I don't know. I'm trying to think the last time I watched it. I mean, maybe one New Year's Eve when I was trying to find some music to put in the background while we were playing games with the kids or something. But I mean, it was so key to me when I was 15, 16.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay. Final big story. The Australian music industry is increasingly worried about local artists and their falling share of streams on the big music services. And it's not, I mean, it's not the only English speaking country who have these worries at the moment that their own music scenes aren't competing on the streaming platforms.
yeah, this is a bigger story, I think. And I think it's one that's going to grow. But yeah, this is a report from a company called APRA AMCOS, like the Collecting Society for Australia and
Hmm.
New Zealand. And this report was like, we collected and paid out a record amount of royalties last year. And you think, oh, great. But then said, yeah, that the share of works by local songwriters and composers steadily declined on streaming and also on short video services like TikTok. So I think on streaming services, what was it? 4 years ago, Australian music was 13.6% of streams in Australia. And now it's 9.5%, so down by nearly a third. And yeah, when I was writing about this, it did strike me that this is something that's happening in the UK, where there's been these worries about local artists not being in chart. In Canada had built this fund that it wants streaming services to pay into to support local artists. And part of that is worry about. And so these are like the three biggest outside the US English-speaking markets. And yet, if you talk to people in France or in Germany, their charts are like full of local artists singing in French and German. And they're really excited about that. Mexico and Brazil, Poland. So there's this thing happening in streaming, which is that there's kind of worrying happening in the Anglo markets that aren't the US. Because in the US, it can still, Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, big stars in the US still travel worldwide. But yeah, maybe something is happening here where the English-speaking countries used to be bigger and maybe now are facing all this competition from K-pop, Afrobeats, reggaeton, but also local scenes in local countries. So I think, and Australia is quite interesting because I think saying there's a problem here or we're worried is part one, but then part two is what do you do about this to support your local scene? So what Canada's tried to do is try to get money off the big streaming services to support local artists. In Australia, there were these suggestions that maybe should we make streaming services recommend and playlist local artists more? In the same way that you get radio quotas in some countries,
Yeah.
And Spotify didn't like that. They kind of pushed back against that and said, no, we do a lot for Australian artists. Look, here's all the things we do. But I think in markets where people are worried about local scenes, you may start to see this. Well, hang on a minute. How many artists are you recommending? Why are your playlists full of the big American stars and not more local acts? I think we're going to see more of that discussion. And I've not seen it happening in the UK, interestingly. No one's really been pressuring the streaming services to put more British artists in their playlists. But this is the kind of conversation you end up having, perhaps. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other business? Oh, I'll tell you what we should come back to. Now we've had some time to digest some of the topics that were raised. We should just very quickly go back to last week's interview with AIF CEO John Rostron, which I thought was really good. I mean, a really good summary of where we are in terms of the independent festival circuits in 2025. Do have a listen if you missed it, by the way, because I mean you'll find out that, amongst other things, how much Portaloos cost. But what I found especially interesting, I don't know about whether you thought the same, Stuart, but was the importance and the popularity of early bird tickets. How the concept of the early bird ticket is now, it's central, isn't it, to the festival year, to the year in the life of a festival is, and also the knock on from that of, in some cases, people wanting to announce bands early so that you can have a first wave early, but you go early bird, then first wave of announcements. But getting ticket sales done, possibly before Christmas, is really important. That was one of the things I took away from it.
Yeah. Which always, I always think, God, the last thing I want to do when finishing 3 days at a festival is pay to spend more days in a tent next year. But like he was saying, that's crucial, isn't it? And I mean, it's weird because it makes more sense to me now as someone who's not really like in that world as deeply as you are, for example. Like sometimes when a festival is kind of announced and then a few weeks later is cancelled quickly, it always seemed very strange to me. It's happened recently with one near me, but that makes sense now because if the early bird tickets flop, then like he said, they kind of know this is going to be challenging.
Yeah. So setting themselves targets of we need to sell this amount will get, I mean, there's various things, isn't it? It's one, there's confidence in the festival if the tickets go well, or no confidence if obviously, as you say, the ticket sales flop initially. You're never going to recover from that, I don't think, over the course of the year and the run up to the festival itself. So you just take the decision very early doors. Let's bin this off. Maybe it wasn't a good idea, but which brings us to something else, which was, I mean, makes absolute sense, but I hadn't really thought about, is the difference between festivals which know its audience, which have an audience, have a community around it. They're more likely to succeed than if you start a new festival and it's just got a handful of bands on, because each year the bands are going to be different, and you'll just have a transient audience who won't necessarily come every year. You need the people who'll buy the early bird ticket when they leave, having had a good time, and they're coming back next year because they want to feel part of the same sense of community.
Yeah, and I've noticed. I went to a thing called Mistress Mary last year, which is the Secret Garden Party people.
Right.
And it's like I think it's one of those festivals, like he said, started as a party and expanded, and it's kind of friends of friends of friends. And when you go into somewhere that's got that strong community, got people who've come back every year, as a newcomer, it feels even better as well, I think. Like it isn't just a bunch of people in a field and the band is coming in sometimes. So I think it did make me think, that maybe that is the defining thing. And then you don't need to know who's playing, do you, before you buy a ticket? You just know you want to come back with these people next to you and you trust them in the lineup.
Yeah. As I say, even just for the revealing cost of some of the utilities like Portaloos and diesel, and making sure you've got enough water, all the practicalities of putting a festival on, all very well done, all explained brilliantly, I thought, by John from AIF. A very informative 40 minutes, which, as I say, if you missed it, is available to you now. I should also mention, actually, on the subject of guests, we are hoping to have another guest joining us in the next fortnight, Lord Kevin Brennan, the music loving former MP. I was just thinking, we've never had a Lord on this program before. Baron Brennan's coming on, we hope. Kevin Brennan, some of you may know, because he is. He's a massive music fan, and does in fact have a band, or had a band in Parliament. We'll have to ask whether he's still got the band together, which also features a former member of Runrig, who's now an MP. But anyway, Kevin Brennan will be coming on to talk about the long overdue fan-led review of music, which hopes to put music fans' opinions in front of governments. We'll explain more about that next week, hopefully. Anything else? Oh, do you want to mention Drake's bad day in court?
Oh, yeah. Well, he didn't even get to court, actually. He got thrown out. So, yeah, Drake was suing Universal Music Group. We've been talking about this, haven't we, regularly? And the judge dismissed it and said, so shall I recap that this is...
Yeah, you should remind us of why he was bringing this, because he was bringing a lawsuit against Universal, but why was he doing it? What was the backstory?
Yeah, so he lost his rap battle with Kendrick Lamar. I think that's an objective thing to say. And then he sued Universal Music, not Kendrick, for defamation because of this line accusing him of being a paedophile. And Drake said, people are going to think I'm a paedophile because you said it in the song. And the judge dismissed the case and said, and here's a quote, "The broader context of a heated rap battle with incendiary language and offensive accusations held by both participants would not incline the reasonable listener to believe that Not Like Us," the Kendrick song, imparts verifiable facts about plaintiff. Essentially, it's a rap battle. You're insulting each other. Grow up, was the paraphrase.
Right.
So Universal said, we're chuffed. We want to get on with promoting Drake's music and investing in his career. And then Drake's team said, nope, we're going to appeal.
Right.
So it's still carrying on. But there's an interesting angle to this that I hadn't really realized before. There's quite a few people in the rap world in the US are quite happy with this decision. And it's not because they don't like Drake or they're on Kendrick Lamar's side. There's this big campaign in the US at the moment, a campaign to stop rap lyrics being used in criminal trials. So if someone who's a rapper is on trial, and they say, well, basically, you rap this and that in your songs, so this is evidence that you committed this crime. There's a big campaign to stop that happening, and say this is not fair. This is artistic expression. It's not them talking about what's happened. And so this Drake lawsuit was kind of possibly undermining that by saying what he rapped should be in court and judged on.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people worried this might undermine these efforts to stop rap lyrics being used in criminal cases. So that's the angle to this that isn't funny. It's like this could have been maybe harmful to that campaign.
Okay. I see. For Drake though, this must be costing a fortune.
You'd think so, yeah. And it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, I understand why you want to pursue it, because if you're feeling, hurt, but at some point you have to sort of walk away and say, okay, this gets more humiliating if you carry it on. I mean, I'd still be really shocked if both sides don't find a way to resolve this. Like even the whole saying we're going to appeal maybe feels to me like a gambit to try to just settle this between them.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Universal saying we're looking forward to continuing to invest in his career. It's hard to see them getting back together after this, but that's the other thing. What happens then if he walks away from Universal Music Group? Suddenly, every other label is going, "Wow, we could sign Drake now, perhaps."
Yeah, whose first track? Surely, what Drake should be doing is writing a song about the court case or about how it's just how he feels about Universal Music Group in general. I mean, surely that's what you do. I mean,
Drake is moany enough already. I don't think I want to hear him moaning about his court case.
Moany Drake. There he goes. He's always moaning, that fella. Drake. Moan. This might be worth mentioning, which is something which actually might have gone under the radar, but Ireland is going to make its basic income scheme for artists permanent. What is it? Just to explain what it is and why it's now important. Obviously, why it's important that it's now going to be ongoing, this scheme.
Yeah, so this idea of basic income, I think we're going to be hearing a lot more of this phrase, all of us in the future, not just musicians. But it was started in COVID, and it was like a pilot, so just a very careful test of 2,000 people who were artists and then people in the creative arts industry were chosen, and they were getting €325 a week as their basic income, so to help them support themselves. And it started in COVID. It was extended. And it's due to end next year. But the culture minister says, no, I think this is a really good thing. We're going to make a permanent scheme to follow it. And the idea is there are some people who we like what they do, the work they do, or the work they help come out, deserves to be supported. And if we lose them, we lose something in society. And, for musicians, streaming is part of this. If musicians who are making good music but struggling in streaming. But AI is the thing that's really sparking talk about basic income schemes. I mean, have you followed the thing about universal basic income schemes?
No.
That's where everyone would get some money. Everyone would get a basic income to help us live. And then we can make use of our time in whatever way. And this is an idea that's been talked about, and it sounds really weird and niche. But as we grapple with this idea of AI might be taking a lot of our jobs in the future.
Yeah.
So basically it's a good thing. And I think Ireland were one of the first countries to test this. Okay. And the weird thing about it, the question about it is how do you decide who qualifies?
This was going to be my first question, because who gets the money and who doesn't get the money? That's the crux of it. Who decides and what's the criteria?
Yeah, so in Ireland, you had to apply. 2,000 were chosen at random because it was a test. And you had to be over 18, and you had to be, and the quote was, in a position to evidence your creative practice or career in the arts. So you had to be able to show that you're not just someone saying, I'm an artist, I've put a song out. You had to have evidence. And then certain professions weren't allowed. So, sorry, artist managers, you weren't allowed in it. Promoters and agents weren't, marketing and PR. It had to be kind of artists, creatives.
Right.
But yeah, if you were going to do this as a permanent thing, it's going to be interesting to see how do you judge? Because, it's not like anyone can say objectively this artist is good and that artist is not. Equally, if this is to support people who need the support, you can't just say, well, who's got more streams than who? Because it's not about supporting people who've got more streams than someone else. So it's weird. It reminds me, my stepdad used to do busking on the Underground, and he went to do the interview for that, and it was basically 3 people who worked for London Transport judging whether his music was good enough to get busking. And he said, it's a bit strange because I didn't know what their qualifications were for liking music. So that's to be firm. But I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about this kind of thing, about this idea of, okay, there are various pressures for musicians and artists and all kinds of creatives, but we need the stuff they make. And so how do we support them? How do we decide who gets the support? And I think Ireland is ahead of the game in this. I think other countries are going to watch what happens and how it does this new scheme to figure out, well, what can we do for our musicians as well?
Yeah. Okay. And finally, this week, there we go again. This is in Stuart's ongoing attempts to get Baby Shark mentioned on this programme on an almost weekly basis. I'll bring you this. And finally, the news that no parent of an under 5 wanted to hear: Peppa Pig and Baby Shark are duetting for a Boxing Day music release.
I think that's outrageous accusation of me trying to get. I'm not here to promote Baby Shark. I'm just fascinated by it. Here's the thing. Do you want to feel really old suddenly?
I mean, I did when I got up this morning, sneezing and a coughing, crawling out of bed, thinking, I've got to do a podcast. So I feel old enough, but yes, okay.
I'll make it worse.
Yeah.
Baby Shark is 10 years old. It's 10 years since Baby Shark appeared.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
A decade. But yeah, so this is okay. But this is their genuine music story. So yeah, Hasbro owns Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
And this company called Pinkfong and Baby Shark, and they've come together and right, you know what? We've both got tens of millions of streams online. Put them together, and they're Boxing Day collaboration track. We haven't heard it yet, but you know exactly how it's going to go, don't you? It's going to go. It's going to go. Peppa Pig, do.
Please don't sing. Please don't sing. No, just stop. Stop right there. Yeah, I don't. This is something I don't want in my head. The thought of what's that going to sound like? Oh, of course, it will sound like this.
No, but this will do numbers more than anyone we like. Either of us like, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be absolutely. Yeah,
it might be. The week after Christmas, #1. It's not really a title, but I wouldn't surprise me if that's #1 the week after Christmas. So watch your space.
You have been warned. We're out of time for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you are enjoying what we're trying to do, please do spread the word. Tell your friends or your work colleagues, anyone really. You can leave us a review online. That always helps. Or repost the show from your socials, the sort of thing. Alternatively, you can support us via Patreon. In fact, if you sign up to be a super fan, you get an extra, 15 minutes or more some weeks of me and him chatting about music and money. Thank you very much to new superfans Paul Brindley and David Ely. Much obliged to you, gents. We do appreciate your support. You too can become a superfan of the show at patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. Alternatively, if you'd just like to get in touch with us, you can use our socials or send us an email, particularly if you've got any questions, things you don't understand about how the music industry works. It's the Price of Music podcast at gmail.com. Off the back of that, I should probably just flag very quickly that next week will be a listeners' questions special, looking at how artists set ticket prices and missing credits on songs listed on streaming services, that and probably other things. So join us for that in 7 days' time. Till then, cheerio.